The United Kingdom wears its history like a burial shroud, beneath the rain and the cobblestone streets. There are places where time forgot to move on, where the dead still breathe through the cracks in the world. They are the most haunted places in the UK you've never heard of, and they do not appear on tourist maps or ghost hunting TV shows. They hide in the seams of the countryside, in ruined inns, empty villages, and woods that hum softly in the dark. I found them not by choice, but by accident, when a series of old photographs led me down a path no one sane would follow. The first was of a forest in Kent, the second of a crooked inn in Gloucestershire, the third of the black tunnels beneath Edinburgh, and the last, a house barely standing on the edge of a moor where the wind seemed to scream through invisible mouths. Each photograph had something strange hidden in its edges. A figure caught a face behind glass, a shadow that stretched toward the lens. I thought they were tricks of exposure, reflections, until I noticed that in every single image, someone or something was staring directly at me. The first location was the Screaming Woods of Pluckley in Kent. Even saying the name feels like calling something out of the ground. Locals warned me not to go there after dusk, not because of superstition, but because the woods don't like being watched. I laughed then. That was before the air started to hum. There's a kind of silence in those woods that isn't quiet at all. It presses into your eardrums until you start hearing things that may not be there. Branches snap behind you when there's no wind. Footsteps echo on damp leaves, though you walk alone. Somewhere, far off, a cry rises not quite human, not quite animal, and dies mid. The smell of damp soil and something faintly metallic fills your nose, and you can taste it like rusted blood. I tried to record the sounds, the shadows, but my phone froze, its light flickering like a heartbeat. Then came the whisper, soft as a sigh, directly into my left ear. Don't run. I turned, and the forest had rearranged itself. The path was gone. The trees leaned closer, gnarled limbs bending like fingers. I walked faster, hearing breaths that weren't mine. And when I finally broke free into the open, my reflection in the car window was smiling. But I wasn't. The Screaming Woods are one of the most haunted places in the UK you've ever heard of, and now I understand why people disappear there without ever screaming at all. The ancient Ram Inn in Gloucestershire was next. Its timbers creaked like bones, settling after a long sleep. The air smelled of wet stone and burned tallow candles, though none were lit. The owner, an old man with eyes too tired for his face, led me inside but refused to cross the threshold after sundown. They wake up when the fire dies, he said. The rooms felt heavier the deeper I went, as though the air itself thickened with centuries of anguish. I slept or tried to in a room known for activity. The night was long and swollen with sound. A dragging, rhythmic noise came from the corner. When I turned on my recorder, I caught breathing 3 distinct voices, layered over one another, whispering words I couldn't recognize. At some point, the bed shifted, the mattress dipped beside me, and the faint pressure of a hand rested on my arm, cold, wet, trembling. I couldn't move. The air tasted of iron, and a distant child's giggle bubbled up through the floorboards. When Don Kamei found deep impressions in the dust near the fireplace. Small feet, bare pointed toward my bed. The old man refused to enter the room again, muttering something about the inn being built over a line where the living and the dead once bargained. Every photograph I took that night showed a shape behind me, pale, crouched, featureless. The ancient Ram Inn is another of the most haunted places in the UK. You've never heard of, and it does not let visitors leave unmarked. Then there were the vaults beneath Edinburgh, a warren of stone passages sealed for centuries under the city's cobbled skin. The air there feels alive. Every sound folds back on itself, like the tunnels are listening. People once lived down there. The poor, the sick, the abandoned. When plague came, the upper city sealed them in. The echo of their final moments still vibrates through the walls. I went down with a guide who lasted less than 10 minutes before fleeing back up the stairs, pale and shaking. I stayed. I needed proof. The flashlight flickered, and I saw shapes move between the archways, brief as breath. A handprint appeared on the wall, not pressed into the dust, but raised from it, outlined in a thin sheen of moisture. Tem primera, ie, ardit avispa, close, desperate. I never left. My knees went weak. The sound came again, this time from the other side of me. The temperature dropped so fast my skin prickled and cracked. I ran until my lungs burned, but the tunnels stretched impossibly long, repeating themselves, each turn identical to the last. When I finally burst into daylight, I looked down to see that my recorder was still running. On playback, there was no sound except my breathing, and beneath it, a second voice whispering the same words I heard below, perfectly in sync with my heartbeat. The vaults beneath Edinburgh are among the most haunted places in the UK. You've never heard of, and some voices down there are still waiting for someone to answer. Last came the place that should not have existed at all. A cottage in North Yorkshire, at the edge of a moor the maps no longer name. The road leading there had long since crumbled, overgrown with gorse and twisted roots. Locals said it was cursed, that no one who spent the night there came back whole. The house was small, slanted, windows boarded from the inside. I broke one open to enter, and the smell that hit me was old, centuries old, a mixture of damp wood, smoke, and something faintly sweet, like rotting flowers. The clock on the wall was stopped at 3:07, its pendulum frozen mid-swing. There were plates on the table, a meal half-eaten and gray with mold, chairs tipped as though people had risen suddenly. Upstairs, the walls pulsed with moisture, and every door creaked open an inch wider when I turned my back. My flashlight died. In the pitch black, I heard footsteps pacing in the next room. I spoke stupidly, asking who was there. The answer came as a breath. Behind my neck, we never left. The air turned icy. I stumbled toward the door, but every step I took brought me deeper into the hall. The cottage was folding in on itself, or maybe around me. My reflection flashed in a broken mirror, but the eyes weren't mine. They were wider, black, alive. I bolted for the stairs, tripping, scraping my palms on the floorboards. When I hit the door again, it was open to the moor, wind howling, sky tearing itself apart in lightning. As I ran, the cottage lights flickered to life behind me, one by one, though there was no power for miles. When I reached my car, every clock, every digital display read 3:07 a.m. It hasn't changed since. Now, when I close my eyes, I see them. The forest, the inn, the tunnels, the house, all layered over one another like a map drawn in darkness. My phone still vibrates at night, messages appearing from unknown numbers, coordinates, single words, names I don't recognize. Sometimes I wake up to the smell of damp earth or hear a child humming softly in the corner of my room. I've tried deleting the recordings, burning the photographs, but they always come back. Maybe the curse isn't in the places, maybe it's in the telling. Because these are the most haunted places in the UK you've never heard of, and now you've heard them. Maybe that's all it takes to invite them in a name spoken, a story shared, a curiosity awakened. If you're listening to this, if the air feels colder now, if you think you saw something move just beyond the light of your screen, you didn't imagine it. They know you're here. They always do. So if you still crave more, if you want to feel the weight of another world pressing against yours, click on the next story. But remember, once you start listening, you can tuner what is waiting there. The next place isn't just haunted, it's hungry.